As a parent, you know it's not just baby talk.
Somebody's hungry.
So talk with your baby's doctor about invasive pneumococcal disease, or IPD, and ask how Prevnar 20 pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine can help protect them. Children under 2 are at increased risk, but Prevnar 20 can help them develop more immunity to 20 strains of bacteria that cause IPD.
Prevnar 20 is approved for children 6 weeks and older to help prevent infections from 20 strains of bacteria that cause invasive pneumococcal disease. Do not get Prevnar 20 if your child has had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Those with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Talk to your healthcare provider before vaccination if your baby was born prematurely. Side effects may include irritability, pain, redness, swelling at the injection site, drowsiness, muscle pain, decreased appetite, headache, and fever. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Ask about Prevnar 20 for your baby. Visit askforprevnar20.com.
This episode is brought to you by Starry. When you drink Starry Lemon Lime Soda, every sip is a win. Perfect for game time or anytime. It's a crisp, refreshing lemon lime soda that's caffeine-free and bursting with flavor that makes you go, ah. Starry hits different. Find it in stores or online today.
Sergeant and Mr. Smith, you're gonna love this house.
Bunk beds in a closet?
There's no field manual for finding the right home. But when you do, USAA Homeowners Insurance can help protect it the right way. Restrictions apply.
No breaks. No breaks. No fear. No fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
At the halfway point in the Premiership Grand Final, it's BELLE Vue who lead by 12 points after an eventful first leg in Manchester with some world-class racing at the National Speedway Stadium.
Brilliant Speedway there, going up the inside. This is Speedway out of the top draw. One last blast out of the last corner. And never hangs on. Louis Kerr back in third place. Doesn't get better than that.
Reaction from the National Speedway Stadium to come. We'll hear from the BELLE Vue Aces captain Brady Kurtz, the man of the moment Robert Lambert, and from Sheffield Justin Sedgman, plus the two team managers Simon Stead and Mark Lemon. In part 2, we're joined by an Aces legend, a World Speedway legend. 3-time world champion Jason Crump gives his verdict on Monday night's events, plus his work with Robert Lambert this year. Also Oxford, his thoughts on the next generation of British Speedway from his work with the GB Youth setup, and much more. Plus, we have reaction from Redcar after Poole took a first leg lead into the Knockout Cup final. Second leg, Danny Ford and Charles Wright on the way later. And from the National League, reaction from Berwick as the Bullets take a very slender 3-point lead back to Mildenhall in the playoff semi-finals. All to come on this week's episode of No Breaks, No Fear.
No breaks. No fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Lots to get through. Do not miss our chat with Jason Crump in part 2 of this podcast. It's a good 25 minutes or so with the legend, and we'll be talking about all sorts of stuff, but particularly about the grand final, of course. He was present at that and trackside, and certainly well poised to give his thoughts, having been in the pit corner of Robert Lambert for much of this season, and of course an Aces legend. So we'll hear what Jason Crump has to say in part 2, but first going to set the scene by hearing from some of those involved on Monday night as BELLE Vue lead the Premiership Grand Final by 12 points after an eventful first leg in Manchester on Monday night at the National Speedway Stadium. Robert Lambert scoring another stunning 15-point maximum for the Aces in their 51-39 win over Sheffield. Sheffield defended strongly on the night to remain in the hunt ahead of Thursday's return at Overton. The home side's advantage came at the cost of 2 riders being withdrawn, as reserve Jai Etheridge crashed out in Heat 4, and then Charles Wright suffered concussion when he came to grief in Heat 9. Lambert and the skipper Brady Kurtz, who himself got 10+3 bonus, combined for 5 ones in Heat 13 and 15 for the home side, with Tigers skipper Kyle Howarth and reserve Justin Sedgman replying in Heat 14 in a race where the Aces could only track 1 rider. Tobias Mujalak top scored for the visitors with 8+1, although his night ended with a heavy crash in Heat number 15 when he was looking to split Kurtz and Lambert. Now let's hear from some of those involved involved now, starting with the man of the moment, currently undefeated so far in his BELLE Vue career. It's 10 starts and 10 wins for Robert Lambert, speaking with Dave Rowe.
Robert Lambert, 12-point lead for BELLE Vue and another 15-point maximum for yourself. Pretty good night's work.
Yeah, it couldn't have gone much better. It's, 2 meetings unbeaten. That was a bit of a struggle, but we ended with a 5-man team, which isn't always good. But we managed to get 12-point lead, and that's better than no point lead.
One big racing highlight, the Heat 11 battle with Jack Holder. Talk us through that. That was fairly intense stuff.
Yeah, Jack is faster. This track is wide open for everybody. It was a tough one. We had to give everything there. We needed them points, and as many points in front we could get, the better, and that's going to be a tough one come Thursday.
Thursday, thoughts on going to Sheffield away? What do you expect?
We're open-minded, optimistic. Obviously, things start from zero once again for us, so we need to be fighting early on and hit them hard, and then so they got no return.
Yeah, an impressive start for Robert Lambert, of course, and it'll be interesting to see how he goes at Oleton on Thursday, and we'll move the spotlight onto Sheffield in a few moments' time. But first of all, let's go down the BELLE Vue side of the pits and hear from the team captain, Brady Kurtz, with Ryan Guest.
Well, Brady Kurtz, a 12-point advantage. I think you'd have taken that when you consider the fact you've gone down to 5 riders here tonight.
Yeah, for sure. I think before the meeting I said we would have been happy with 10, so to have 12 and 2 riders down, I think that's as good as we possibly could have got. I don't think we could have asked for too much more. And obviously I wish them two all the best. It'd be nice if they were both coming with us on Thursday, but I don't think that's going to happen. So it all comes down to one night now, really.
Yeah, and like you say, it does show a great deal of character from the other 5 boys as well, doesn't it, when you've watched two of your teammates crash out like that?
Yeah, absolutely. We had a couple of very important races at the end there to claw as many points as we could get back. So all we can do now is focus on Thursday, and I'm glad we're 12 points up and not 12 points down. Yeah,
you kind of knew what you were going to get from Robert Lambert. Did you expect what he's delivered so far in his 2 meetings?
I probably didn't expect him to go fully unbeaten, but I knew he was good. You can't knock him. He's Grand Prix level, and he's one of the best in the world. There's no doubt about that. And it'd be nice if he'd stay. Yeah, one of those situations as well. Now you're confident you've done enough that you can defend a 12-point lead on Thursday night. Sheffield think they've kept it within enough that they can overturn it. So really nicely poised this grand final. Yeah, I thought right from the start I knew it was going to go down to the end. There's no question about that. Sheffield's a good team. BELLE Vue's a good team. I think it's probably one of the best finals we're going to see for a while.
It's certainly set up for a grandstand finish, isn't it, on Thursday, and can't wait to see how it pans out. What about the thoughts of the team manager then, Mark Lemon? Let's head into his office with Lee Wild and get his thoughts.
Mark, top performance from the boys tonight, even though there's some tough circumstances surrounding it.
Yeah, they rallied hard. Obviously, losing 2 riders in a grand final is never ideal. But they never lost their focus and rallied. To get a 12-point lead and under sort of grueling conditions like that, you've got to be pleased.
Yeah, double figures going into the away leg. That must give you confidence. We've not been the best at Sheffield this year, but we know these boys can pull it out of the bag.
Yeah, sure, but we start fresh on Thursday. In the playoffs, we've never had a 12-point advantage as such. So we look forward to taking that to Sheffield. I mean, the pressure's on them guys to perform as much as it is just to hit that 40-point mark, and it's game on.
And an amazing atmosphere tonight, packed with fans from both sides. A great atmosphere, great for the sport.
Yeah, it was a great spectacle. There was spills. It had a bit of everything, didn't it? This national speedway circuit has just been puts out great races week in, week out, and really clean and fast. And just to see as many crashes tonight, I guess that just sort of shown how much it meant to the boys and how much the stakes are at there. So a few mistakes, and maybe hopefully they're not costly, but our thoughts are with Jai Etheridge and Charles. Obviously they look like they're probably going to be missing the return leg.
How many headaches does that give you for the following 3 days? What do you do as a team manager?
I now have to go back to the drawing board and look at my options and regroup. But there's not a whole bunch to can do. But the team itself, they understand the pressure that's now being placed on them, and I think sometimes when your back's against the walls when you come out fighting.
Yeah, and just quickly, great to have Max Frick here. Real show of support that an injured Grand Prix rider rallies around the team like that. It's still part of the team.
Well, he is the team. It's just like he spent a lot of time here at BELLE Vue, and it means a big part of his career. So obviously he'd love to be out there racing, and it's never comfortable for any rider to watch from the sidelines. But no, he played his role, helping the boys and giving advice and encouraging them. So yeah, that was great to see him.
Mark, thank you very much.
Cheers.
Mark Lemon, BELLE Vue team manager, suggesting the pressure is all on Sheffield as we head towards the second leg on Thursday. But does Simon Stead, the Sheffield team manager, agree with that? Let's find out. He's been talking with Ryan Guest.
Well, it's half time, all to play for. Not a disaster by any stretch. I think we've been dealt a rough hand in a couple of heats, but it's 12 points. So I think it sets up the final round at Sheffield on Thursday really nicely.
When you consider the dominant form BELLE Vue have been in around this National Speedway Stadium circuit this year, when you consider your number one scored 2 points, like you say, 12 points doesn't sound too disastrous, does it?
No, it doesn't. And look, I don't want the focus to be on what Jack did or didn't score, because he's been outstanding for us all season and his form at Sheffield has been unbelievable. So if Jack will have a point to prove on Thursday, and if the rest of the lads can ride like they have done tonight, then we're in for a fantastic finish.
So one thing we did see was the boys really dig in and battle really hard for some points along the way.
Never gave up, never gave up. They all tried hard, they all worked hard. And that's all you can ask for them, really. Looking at the scorecard, I kind of think we should be more than 39 points somewhere along the way, but is what it is. And like I said, we know what we've got to do on Thursday now. There's a chance for us to get back on top, and that's what we want to do. We want to be champions.
Arguably the biggest night in Sheffield Speedway's history. BELLE Vue fans are going to come along thinking they've got enough to hold on to. Sheffield fans are going to be turning up thinking it's a deficit they can overturn. So it really does promise to be one hell of a night.
Yeah, I hope so. Let's pack the place. It'd be fantastic to see a full Alderton Stadium on Thursday, and let's hope we can give our fans plenty more to shout about.
Steady. See you on Thursday.
Thank you.
So there's Simon Stead. Says it's all to play for. Is 12 points enough? Something that we will discuss with Jason Crump in the second part of this podcast very soon. First of all, though, let's hear from another Aussie. It's Justin Sedgman, who had some important contributions to make for the Sheffield Tigers at reserve on Monday night. And Sedge has been having a chinwag with Ryan Guest.
Yeah, obviously, it's not a bad little target. Obviously, Kyle and Jack had a bit of a tough night tonight. But, we beat them at home a few weeks ago by a fair, more than 12 points. So it's definitely doable. And, I think the way we've all been riding, we all rode pretty good tonight. It's just, luck didn't really fall our way, really. But, they're up against it now. They're missing probably 2 riders. So we'll see what we can do. And I think it's still all to play for.
From your own personal performance, 7+1 down at reserve, and really making some gates to mix things up in those opening couple of bends and keep a couple of the BELLE Vue boys at bay as well.
Yeah, well, I haven't had any real good meetings at BELLE Vue this year. I've always liked the place and always done pretty decent here, but this year hasn't been real good. And I've just made a couple of small little changes just to make the bike a little bit better to ride around here, and seemed to have worked tonight.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, going into Thursday, a job to be done, the task in hand, and just got to keep riding the way you have been at Alderton, everyone.
Yeah, I think if we all ride to our capabilities on Thursday and a little bit of luck falls our way, it's definitely doable, and hopefully we can definitely get the win at home, but, it needs to be by a fair amount.
And just finally, obviously, you came into this Sheffield team partway through the season. Do you feel you've certainly done your job, if not a little bit more as well, for the Tigers this year?
Yeah, I would have liked to have done a little bit better at home for Sheffield. Obviously, had that guest book in there and started off like a house on fire. And, probably just the lack of meetings. We were a little bit delayed every now and then to ride at home. And, it's once we got a few consistent meetings under our belt, It's, things have turned around a little bit and feel pretty comfortable around there now.
Justin Sedgman of the Sheffield Tigers, and the two teams, Sheffield and BELLE Vue, now just 15 heats away from one of them lifting that Premiership title on Thursday night. But who will it be? Will it be Sheffield? Will it be BELLE Vue? 12 points separates them. You can be there in person. Tickets on sale at the Sheffield Speedway website, sheffield-speedway.com, to get all the information you need. Thursday, 7:30, and if you can't be there in person, then it is live on Eurosport 2 and Discovery Plus on Thursday nights. Don't miss it. It's set to be a cracker. Now, one man who has definitely lifted a few titles in his time. In fact, I've looked back on his history, and by my reckoning, he's won 80 different titles, both individual and team, including 2 British League titles, 3 World Championships, 5 British Grand Prix, even a Teesside silver helmet. Jason Crump, a Speedway legend, is joining us in the next part of No Brakes, No Fear, and we'll be with him in just a couple of moments.
This podcast is brought to you by AT&T Fiber with All-Fi. Something tells me that the guy watching sports for 13 hours straight on Sunday, who then stays up watching the recaps of those 13 hours, then calls his friends to talk about it, is definitely going to notice that half-a-second delay.
Get AT&T Fiber with All-Fi and watch sports any time of day from anywhere in your house. Live like a gigillionaire. Limited availability in select areas. Go to att.com/hypergig to check eligibility. Coverage may require extenders at additional charge.
Did you miss your deadline to renew your Medicaid coverage? You can still send your completed annual review form to Healthy Connections Medicaid. You may be assigned to another health plan, but you can ask to come back to First Choice within 60 days of renewed Medicaid eligibility. It's your family. It's your choice. First Choice is the right choice. Renew and choose us. Visit selecthealthofsc.com/renew to learn more.
Jake Knapp is the inventor of the design sprint and the New York Times bestselling author of the book Sprint. He's also the co-founder of Character, a venture fund for early stage startups. How and why did you start using Miro?
I came from this position of thinking, I don't want to be doing stuff online, to thinking now when I do a sprint in person with a company, it's like, we're going to use Miro, even though we're all in the same room, because that's a better way for us to get this work done. As an investor, we're basically investing in their ability to solve problems. We're saying, we think this group of people is going to be able to solve a problem in a really great way and create value by doing it. And actually, you need to give people the tools that can help them make decisions, help them collaborate, help them visualize and see things in a different way. And Miro does all those things. So to me, at least as an investor, I'm thinking, give the team the tools that are going to help them think, that are going to make the most, brighten their skills as smart folks. And Miro is at the top of that list for me.
No Brakes, No Fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome to No Brakes, No Fear, the official British Speedway podcast. I'm very pleased to say we have a world champion. In fact, not just a world champion, a 3-time world champion, Speedway legend, let's be honest. Jason Crump joins me on No Brakes, No Fear. Hi, Jason.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great, thanks, and it's fantastic to get you on the podcast and get your thoughts, and especially at this point in the season where not only are we going to be talking quite a lot about a team that you've spent a lot of time riding for, but also a rider involved in that in Robert Lambert, and of course a rider that you've been working closely with as well. So you have quite a few ties to this grand final that's at the time of recording this halfway through.
Yeah, well, and throw in the fact that Lemo and I grew up together and rode our motorbikes together just about every day of the week for a few years. And then Simon Stead and I were teammates at BELLE Vue and have a really good relationship as well. So, I'm kind of deeply involved without having anything to do with it.
Yeah, you're firmly wrapped up in that. And people who are watching on TV or indeed at the stadium will have seen you there at the National Speedway Stadium on Monday night. It was a thrilling evening of racing, some fantastic heats of speedway around the National Speedway Stadium, a few thrills and spills as well, and another maximum for Robert Lambert. So certainly a memorable evening for anybody watching that meeting.
Yeah, look, I thought it was a really good night for Speedway itself because the meeting was pretty close, and even at times when BELLE Vue stretched a little bit away, it never felt like the lead was unreversible by Sheffield. Great night of Speedway, and you can see what it meant to the riders, because a few of them tried a little bit too hard a couple of times, and BELLE Vue is not a track that we normally see that many incidents at. And I think there was probably more there last night than in the season put together. So you can see what it means to the riders: a big crowd, a big stage, big meetings, and everybody's just pushing that little bit further, and a few came unstuck, unfortunately for them, but I don't think any serious injuries.
No, it looks like Charles Wright's suffered concussion, and obviously Jai Etheridge is going to be out as well now. So it does leave BELLE Vue with some question marks heading into Thursday, and it's looking like rider replacement for Charles Wright and a guest of some kind for Jai Etheridge. So changes for the second half of this meeting going over to Oleton on Thursday.
Yeah, that's probably frustrating and disappointing for Lemo, because Charles and Kyle Howarth almost level themselves out as riders, don't they? And having to go through with rider replacement, it's never ideal starting big meetings off one man down. For example, what happened with Jai in his second ride, which meant Low Dawn had to end up taking 7 rides. Charles is injured, and BELLE Vue can only track one rider in Heat 14, which makes it difficult. But 12 points, yeah, possibly be enough. But when you look at BELLE Vue's history there this year, Sheffield must be feeling confident still, because I don't think BELLE Vue have hit 36 points at Sheffield, have they, this year?
No, and it's uncharacteristically for Jack Holder getting a couple of points on a night like that. You fancy that there's going to be a comeback from that, because he wasn't off the pace. He was involved in some of the great races of the evening and lost out ultimately. But you fancy that that's a score he's going to be keen to settle and be fired up for on Thursday.
Well, Jack was a little bit unlucky. I mean, the first race he was having a good go around the outside and just didn't quite. Possibly just didn't quite manage to get in Louis Kerr's eyesight a couple of times off the corner and get around, because really and truthfully the position he was in, he was probably almost there, and Louis just needed to see and be aware that it was his teammate there. Once you get hit with the roost in Heat 1, that's pretty much game over, especially at BELLE Vue. But look, in his second ride, Jack was a bit unlucky there, because there's a bit of a gap between between the red stoplights, and if it's not your home track and you're not really aware of where the lights are, difficult to see. And he was probably quite lucky to get away with that, because he went pretty awkwardly into the fence there, and whether that unsettled him a bit or anything, he may have banged his wrist or shoulder and just not been quite right for the rest of the night. But you're right, he won't want to repeat that performance, and will definitely be trying to fix that for Thursday for sure. 12
points is sort of a funny marker, really, and I know that one or two team managers see 12 points as being a decent threshold, but it is finely poised, where BELLE Vue think, well, 12 points, that's a decent lead to defend, but therefore also on the flip side, Sheffield feel that 12 points is certainly a lead that they could rein in fairly quickly. 3-5-1s and it's all level. Obviously it's not quite as easy as that, but it is that marker where there is a big question mark. 12 points. If it was a bit more, you would fancy the balance would switch in maybe BELLE Vue's favour. If they got a few more, a few less, you'd think, well, Sheffield are easily going to catch them up. So it's going to be very interesting to see how things pan out on Thursday, isn't it? And sets it up for a real grandstand finish to the season in Sheffield.
Well, it's definitely 12 points is better than 10, but not as good as 14. So whatever way you look at it, whenever you host the first leg at home and you get a win in, you always look at it and say, well, we should have had a couple more points here and a couple of more points there. But But realistically, all things considered, I think the BELLE Vue team can probably say they just about got the maximum they could get last night with what happened and the way the circumstances fell. So for Sheffield, I'm 100% sure that Simon would be looking at it with his team saying the complete opposite, that our number one had an off night, ended up on his ear and, didn't quite settle the way Jack Holden normally would. So definitely both teams have got plenty to go for. I think that, you say 3-5-1s, it's not so easy to get when you got Kurtz, Zager and Lambert all going pretty decent. Not out of the question, but pretty difficult. But it'll definitely be worth watching, and I'll have the TV on Thursday night to look at it, that's for sure.
Obviously a huge boost for BELLE Vue getting Robert Lambert into their side, who's undefeated so far in BELLE Vue colours in the last week. Obviously he's got to go to Olderton now and see if he can carry it on there, but there's no reason why not. I mean, his form is absolutely incredible at the moment, getting into the top 6 in the world to get automatic qualification through to the Grand Prix series. He's had a great season in Poland and in Sweden as well, and now here on the verge of potentially claiming some silverware in the British League too. I mean, he has really developed quite a lot over the last few years, and certainly since he was last performing in the league on these shores, and now a real world-class rider.
Well, he's been playing Good Boy Speedway for a couple of years, hasn't he? And, it really shows in his riding. Not only in his riding, but in his preparation for riding, in his performance, in his decision-making whilst he's on the bike. He is one of the top riders in the world, and, sometimes it's hard to make anybody believe or understand that they're in the top group of riders, and I went through a little bit of this with Robert. He had a tough run in the middle of the season with a difficult day in Cardiff and not a very successful Grand Prix challenge at Glasgow, and I tell you what, I take my hat off to him after that, because I know the mental state that he was in at that point, and he absolutely dug his heels in and has showed tremendous resilience to come back from the emotional state he was in after those meetings, and I'm genuinely not surprised that he's doing what he's doing when he came back to England. He's an English rider at the end of the day. He's an Englishman, and he wants to perform well here. Be reminding the British fans of what he's capable of. And the BELLE Vue fans have taken him to their hearts, because he's obviously gone there and he's dominated both meetings he's been in so far, and helped the Aces to a couple of important victories. So it's going to be interesting again to see him go to Sheffield, which is another racy, it's a racy track, and it's somewhere that you go fast and let the bike go, and he's doing that really, really well at the moment. He's riding superbly actually at the moment.
And now, obviously, we're hearing stories that the restrictions are going to be altered between Poland and the other nations, and riders will have a freer choice, and potentially at the expense of a race night in this country, if Poland need it. And they'll be able to call on them as and when that is the case. But it is potentially going to free things up for Robert. Do you think that Robert would be, having had a great experience so far and unbeaten in this country, and seeing that, do you think firstly that Robert would like to do more of that going forward? And do you think that that's going to open the door for other riders to now be able to ride in Poland, in Sweden or Denmark and here as well?
Well, I can't talk for Robert. I'm not involved in making contracts with him. I just give him some advice and opinions when he asks. But looking at it from the outside, he's obviously come back to ride in Britain for the end of the season. So I'm presuming that he's looking at a longer term plan, but I'm not absolutely aware of what that is. Yes, I would like to think that it will open it up, for riders to want to come back to Britain. I think that this. I've been a fan of British Speedway for years, and I'm not being hypocritical. Obviously, towards the end of my career, I stopped riding in England, but that was not because I was restricted or not because I didn't particularly want to. It was because I'd been doing 20 years of Speedway 4 or 5 nights a week, and I physically and mentally I couldn't do that anymore. And it suited me not to be in Britain at that time. But as riders are developing their techniques, I think that riders that have developed their techniques in UK Speedway, that they need to keep hold of that for as long as they can. There was many of the riders that were world class. They stopped riding in England towards the end of their careers, but all of the training and development happened in British Speedway early on. And I still think that when you have the opportunity to go and ride such different tracks a couple of times a week, whether you're riding at a tight Monmore Green, Wolverhampton on a Monday night, and then you go on the Thursday night to a big racy fast track like Sheffield, it's definitely worth doing it, and it helps your technique and it helps you become a more rounded and better rider. Polish Speedway is fantastic for what it is, but the tracks are all, I'm not going to say the same because they're all different, but they're all similar. That's the way to describe them. They're all bigger, big-ish, faster tracks, and the preparation of the tracks in Poland now is so good. It's crazy to look at it and see how well they make the tracks. Maybe a little boring to watch on TV sometimes, but from a rider's point of view, there's no surprises. There's no, they're not rutty tracks. They're very predictable and nothing there that tends to catch you out very often.
Yeah, sure. And on the flip side of that, you've also been involved in the youth development program within British Speedway and also the track days, I think, as well at BELLE Vue on occasion. And what's your assessment of Speedway in this country going forward? Because we've seen some exciting talent coming through, like Robert, like Dan Bewley, Leon Flint, and we're seeing those now rising to the top slowly but surely. Tom Brennan, of course, being another one. But that production line is firmly on the go, and there's much more depth to come over the next 6-7 years or more.
Yeah, well, that's the aim of it, because if you want to have depth in the next 3 to 7 years, the work needs to be needed to start 5 years ago. And the program that, the No Limits program that's gone into the Team GB Academy, the youth program that's in place, it's good. And, we have a decent bunch of riders there. You can never have too many riders because, of course, along the way, when you start with 25, 12-year-olds, by the time they get to 16, 18, you don't have that 25. You need to, you're going to lose a few along the way who find other things to do. So working on numbers is important, and maybe trying to steal a few riders from other disciplines like motocross or grass track or trials or whatever we can get some riders in. We need to get as many young kids in, boys and girls, as we can. And we need to try and furnish them with the opportunity to start riding at a young age on smaller bikes if necessary, and bring them along that way. This 50cc, the Pee-wee Speedway that they have in Denmark, it seems to be just about the most popular form of kids motorcycling in that country at the moment. There's kids doing it just about every day of the week. So we need to look at that, and we need to be aware that, if we want 20 new riders in 10 years' time, we need to be working with the 8-10-year-olds right now to get them in the sport, starting off at a young age and hopefully learning the right things the right steps to take along the way. But so far the youth program has definitely worked. There's been some tremendous backers behind it, from the word go, and guys like Robert and Dan, Tom, Leon, Drew, they've all been in it for a while. Jordan Palin's another one. Jason Edwards, Jason's actually had Jason and Jordan Jenkins have actually probably had breakthrough years this year, and Dan Gilks was going very, very well at the start of the year and got a season-ending injury, unfortunately for him. But it's the names are there. They're not up there in the highest levels of Speedway yet, but they're working along, and the Rising Star programs also help bring a couple of names forward. Guys like Connor Mountain, who's held a team place at Sheffield all year, and it took Robert a lap and a half, 2 laps to get past him last night at BELLE Vue. So these guys are not hanging around, and they're moving forward, which is really positive to see.
Yeah, and it's been interesting actually with doing BSN. We've covered some matches in the last week in the National League, and interesting to see some riders there. 2 riders making their British Speedway debuts in the league, and one was at Oxford, Ashton Bowden, who's a motocrosser, as you were saying, and I think a former... certainly a British champion. I think he's won something at the world level as well. And he went out in his first ride and won his first ride in League Speedway. Luke Harrison did the same at Berwick as well on Saturday night. So, the talent is definitely there coming through.
Yeah, there's riders ready to move up to the next level. And guys like you're saying, Luke Harrison, Ace Piper, Max Perry, there's a few of them in there. Jody Scott. There's a few in there that have, that are having their first races around now. And Ace has been in the national development team up there at Berwick all year. And to see the progress they're making. I started working with these kids when they were on 250s, and to see the progress they're making and where they're going and the skills they're picking up, it's pretty cool. And hopefully we can get them moving along as our next bunch of kind of under 21 riders, and we also need to remember that we need to replace those boys on the 250s as well.
Yeah, for sure. And on the other side of the fence, though, as you now lurk in Speedway stadiums, you've had this full season of being a team manager at Oxford, and tell us about that, because obviously it was great to get Oxford back into Speedway first and foremost, and what a terrific advert they've been for the sport as a team, going there either in the Championship or the National League, bringing in big crowds. The enthusiasm there is back. The stadium always so well presented. A welcoming atmosphere, real family atmosphere, I think, from when I've been down to Oxford this season. And, maybe he's looking for bigger things for next season.
Yeah, well, it's been a fantastic job by Jamie and his team there, that's for sure. Unfortunately for me, my commitments away from Speedway haven't really allowed me to fulfill everything that we wanted to do at Oxford. But whilst I was there and able to attend the meetings, it was enjoyable and great to see that a club can come back into the sport and not only maintain but build on the supporter base that it has. And we all know that the National Development League, the NDL, doesn't attract huge numbers, but Oxford have been able to attract people in there to watch that as well, which has been, for the guys riding in the meetings, it's been really, really encouraging for them to turn up at an event and actually recognise that there's a crowd in there. So it's been a huge effort, what Jamie undertook to get that off the ground. And look, what Scott and Jamie do at Berwick is fantastic. They've got their own little training track set up there with Grant Henderson at Duns, and they're doing a great little job up there with what they do. And they have a couple of bikes up there for people for young people not involved in Speedway to come and try stuff out. And they've got a nice little production line going there with a few kids coming into the Duns training centre, moving on into the Bullets team and moving forward. And I'm sure that in the near future, Jamie's probably got similar sort of plans to do something at Oxford, knowing how he thinks.
Yeah, and with the crowds, I think for the National Development League at Oxford are outstanding. I think they got 800 or more. I think last week and midweek, and that's a decent crowd for some clubs in the Championship, I would say, and there's probably been smaller crowds in the Premiership in some weeks, and obviously more than that for the Championship. It's sort of been 1,500, 2,000 in the early weeks, wasn't it? And they sort of generally maintained that throughout.
Yeah, well, they're drawing from a large area that's deprived of Speedway, aren't they? Because if you look 10, 15, 20 years ago, we had in that sort of little pocket of the country there, you had Reading, Swindon, Oxford, Coventry's not so far away. You had going a little further away, you had Somerset and Exeter, and apart from Plymouth, it's, they're deprived of Speedway there, aren't they? Mm-hmm. So they've drawn, to the way it looks to me is they're drawing some spectators not only from Oxford but from a few of those other places as well. And that's what we need to happen. We need Oxford to not only to survive but to flourish, and we need other tracks to do the same, because ultimately what brings the demise of a Speedway club is when there's not enough people going to watch it. And, that it's a sad state that some of the clubs have found themselves in. Newcastle this year, what happened there was, I feel for all those people up there. I've raced at Newcastle in the early 90s, and I went back and raced there last year. And it's disappointing and upsetting when you see so many people that love going to their Speedway there on a Sunday, and then that gets taken away from them. And it's going to be an interesting one to see what unfolds with the Edinburgh situation as well moving forward.
They've got their farewell to Armadale meeting coming up. Obviously, we hope it's not a farewell to Armadale, and certainly not a farewell to Edinburgh Speedway, because such a huge part of the sport. Jason, it's been great speaking with you, and thanks for spending the time with us today and talking all about Speedway. We could speak for hours, I'm sure, but maybe we'll carry this conversation on at some other point. But it's been great speaking with you, and well done for everything you've achieved this season, both with Oxford and getting the team there up and running and launching a new side, and also the work with Robert as well. It's certainly been a busy year for you, I know, on and off the track.
Yeah, it's fun. Speedway's a sport that when it gets into your system, it tends to stay there, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Certainly does. And we're seeing now riders like Rory Schlein, who retired, of course, and his videos of him online now, getting his bike back out, and that bug's coming back there, isn't it?
Well, he's not too old to be a Speedway rider, that's for sure. And hats off to him. Rory's been a solid professional for years and years, and if he decides that it's something that he wants to continue doing or try to do, and he has my full support, because at the end of the day, I stopped riding, and I was quite happy that I'd stopped riding for a few years, and then you start to do a few meetings in Aussie, and then things, it doesn't leave you. It's just a shame that you get older and you can't do it like you used to.
Yeah, time marches on, but you can still be involved and find different ways to be involved too, and that's exactly what you're doing. But fantastic to speak to you, Jason. Thanks a lot once again, and really appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you.
There's Jason Crump, a Speedway legend, joining us on No Brakes, No Fear, and just look down his You just go on his Wikipedia page and just see just how much he's won. There's nothing I don't think he hasn't won, and usually I think he's won stuff multiple times as well. It's frightening, and certainly an inspiration for any young rider of what you can achieve in the sport as well. And great to hear from Jason on No Breaks, No Fear, and I hope you enjoyed that chat as well. Coming up then, in the last part of No Breaks, No Fear, we're moving our attention onto the Championship. The Knockout Cup is on the go there between Redcar and the Poole Pirates, and Poole certainly got first blood in the first meeting at the Echo Arena. It's all back to Poole Stadium on Wednesday night. We'll hear from Charles Wright, speaking last week, of course, before his incident on Monday at BELLE Vue, and we'll hear from the Poole promoter Danny Ford on the prospects of more silverware heading to the south coast in the next part of No Breaks, No Fear.
No Breaks, No Fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Welcome back. Don't forget to like and subscribe to No Breaks, No Fear so you don't miss any of the future episodes. There's still a few more weeks of the Speedway season to go, and we'll be with you right until the end of October here on the show. And if you've made it this far through the podcast, you must be pretty keen on it. So thank you for making it this far. But why not leave us a review as well on whichever app you use? But reviews all help other people find the podcast as well. Try and make it a 5-star one. I mean, we'll really love you forever if you can do that, because a 5-star podcast is magnifique, and that will be great. So just drop us a quick review on there and a rating. Even if you don't leave a review, you can give you a star rating, and that helps other Speedway fans eventually find it, believe it or not. So yeah, if you can do that, that'd be great while you continue your listening. And right now we're going to talk about the Championship, because there's been lots going on in the Knockout Cup. Of course, Poole are still fighting on all fronts for silverware, and they took control of the Championship Knockout Cup final with a 48-41 win at Redcar in Friday's first leg. And the Pirates led throughout the contest after a 5-1 in Heat 1 from Ben Cook. And Danny King, as always, maintained an advantage despite a number of falls later on in the meeting, including for King in Heat 15. Cook kept up his outstanding form with 13+1 from 5 rides. Brother Zach took extra rides at reserve to finish with 11+3. And the Bears skipper Charles Wright scored 14, only missing out on a maximum to Ben Cook in the final race. And he produced the ride of the night to go from 3rd to 1st in Heat 9, passing Richard Lawson on the line. Well, we'll hear from Charles Wright in just a couple of moments. But first, Poole co-promoter Danny Ford speaking to Ryan Nassau.
Great result for the Pirates, really coming into some strong form at this stage of the season.
Yeah, I said at the start of the night we were going to win it tonight, and you laughed at me.
Yes, you did, yes. Well, no. I was hoping not.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was... as I said at the start of the night, the boys love this track. You know, I think most riders do, and based on the performance earlier in the year, I was full of confidence. You know,
both Cook brothers, unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, they're both really coming to form at the minute. You know, and when someone has an off night, it's great having the option to bring Zach in reserve, and putting Ben in Heat 15. You know, shows the confidence we got in them. Yeah, both absolutely flying. It's we've hit a purple patch of form. Just got to see it out a couple more weeks, and hopefully bring home some silverware.
And many fans will be asking about the Jubilee League. Is that still going ahead?
Yeah, our full intention is still to get it on ahead. We're just working on dates. I know Glasgow might not be overly keen on doing it, but as far as us and Leicester are concerned, we're getting that done. Just trying to, we're mindful that it is getting towards the end of the season and there's not many dates left, but we just want to make sure that this next week or so goes smoothly. We can get this KO Cup out of the way, and then it's up to us and Leicester to fit in the final couple of fixtures.
In hindsight, was it better to just go with that one meeting at Sheffield?
I mean, hindsight's 20/20, isn't it? So yeah, probably would have been, but I don't know. I think that could have been a massive risk, and we'd all lose a lot of money, which in Speedway you can't afford to do, and you need to be sensible businessmen. Ultimately we haven't all got millions of pounds in the bank, so it might have been a great evening of racing, and I had no doubt that it would have been, but financially it needs to make sense for the clubs, which is why we've decided to do it over 3 legs. So yeah, just hoping we can fit those in now, and hopefully I'm using that very, very soon.
And not Sheffield, Poole looking very strong tonight, really confident of the second leg. I'm assuming a word on the Bears tonight, because there was a little bit of bad luck in there.
Yeah, they did have their fair share of bad luck, strange. I thought, things could have been slightly different had luck been going their way, but I think their heads dropped a little bit, and ours haven't dropped for a while. We've really come together as a unit, and I think that's really important when you are having bad luck, to have the character in your team to bounce back.
Well, as you know, we've had quite a few comebacks here, but unfortunately for us, Poole and Scunthorpe, so it was unfortunate for us, but congratulations on Poole, who were the better side in the night. We'll just have to turn it around the second leg.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Thanks very much.
Top man.
Cheers.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky old task, but it's a 7-point lead that Poole have, so they're not completely out of sight. It's not a 30-point job or anything like that. You never know in Speedway, and it's certainly not an insurmountable margin, but Poole have been fairly formidable on their home circuit throughout much of the season, of course. Just that one blip against Plymouth that time, but it's going to be very hard for Redcar, and they'll be without Charles Wright, of course, for the rematch. Kai Thompson of Edinburgh will be stepping in to fill in for Charles in that meeting on Wednesday night, and we'll have all the reaction from Poole Stadium, because, of course, one of the sides, either Poole or Redcar, will be lifting some silverware on Wednesday night. Now, let's hear from Charles Wright himself, and we've got a chat with Charles, a new reporter to introduce to you. This is Sophie Swales, who's the daughter of Jamie Swales, the Redcar co-promoter, and you know what? She's got some answers out of Charles that season's reporters would fail to get, and here we are.
How do you feel about how many points he's got this meeting?
Oh, it was a good night personally for myself. Disappointing to be down in the first leg. Going into second, as we know how strong Poole are around the home track, but we'll give it our all and go out fighting.
What was the atmosphere between the team in the pits?
Good question. I think the comeback, it was a bit high, and then as soon as they got a couple of 5-1s, the team sort of dropped the heads a little bit, and we had a few mechanical problems in the team, and it's very hard to get back.
Especially against such a good side.
Yeah, since a good side, which, they're very tough, like the Cup boys are the key for them, and they're both firing tonight. Like, I think Ben only dropped one point tonight, so I think that was the difference in the two teams tonight.
Are you feeling confident going to Poole next Wednesday?
She's good, isn't she?
I am personally myself, but we'll get the rest of the boys fired up and give it a good go. But it's not over yet. We're only down by 7 points, so it only takes 5-1 and 4-2, and we're back in it. It's all square. So yeah, they've not got a massive lead going down there, but we know how good they are around there as well.
Great stuff from Sophie Swales, daughter of Jamie Swales, Redcar co-promoter, chatting to Charles Wright and getting some serious answers there out of Charles. That was good stuff. And best wishes to Charles as well as he recovers from that concussion he received on Monday. And as I say, the next leg of that is on Wednesday. You might be listening to this after the event, and you'll know by that point whether it was Poole or Redcar that lifted the Knockout Cup in the Championship on Wednesday night. Now, let's go to the National Development League, because it's all happening there in their playoffs in the semi-finals. Leicester have qualified for the National Development League Grand Final with a 12-point aggregate win over Oxford. The Lion Cubs defeating the Chargers 52-38 at the Paul Chapman & Sons Arena, with Dan Thompson scoring 14+1, a paid maximum to complete an unbeaten performance across both legs of the tie. Twin brother Joe added 13+1, while Henry Atkins scored 11+1 for the visitors, and youngster Ashton Bowden impressed again with 9, having scored, I think, 7+1 on his league debut last Wednesday night. Now, elsewhere, Berwick edged to a 46-43 win over Mildenhall in the first leg of their National Development League playoff semi-final at Shieldfield Park after an incident-packed meeting. This really did have everything, this meeting. The Bullets led by 12 points after 10 races, but the Fen Tigers roared back to take the next 3 heats by a 15-2 margin, as both home riders were disqualified from Heat 13, and they were disqualified from Heat 13. That was after Kyle Bickley had touched the tapes and gone off a 15-metre handicap, and then when it was down to just the 2 riders being left, one of the remaining 2 riders fell off, and had to push his bike pretty much the entire way round the final lap, and it's a long way around Berwick. And in the end, it was just a narrow 3-point lead over Mildenhall to take back to West Row on Sunday evening. Well, let's hear the thoughts now of the Berwick Bullets team manager, Kevin Little. I had a chat with him after the match at Shieldfield Park.
Well, it's a lead. Obviously, things went against us the last few heats, and as I say, we were 12 up and looking quite comfortable, to be honest. But one or two things happen, and at the end of the day, that's racing. And at this level, things like that can happen, and you can't fault our boys for the effort, and also the Mildenhall boys as well. They all gave 100%. It means a lot to both sides, so they were giving it everything, and little things can go wrong, but the boys were trying really hard.
As far as things go, have you seen anything like Heat 13? It seems to have like everything Speedway can throw at you in one heat, didn't it? We had an exclusion for Carl Bickley.
Yeah, that's it. Well, obviously, but Greg had packed up on the start, so he was not under power, and then Kyle crashed. An unbelievable, spectacular crash. He was lucky to get up from it, but he's all right. And then the rerun, Jack Kingston fell off, and he pushed home for a. There's not many times you push home for a paid win.
I know, especially around this track. I think if it had fallen off at Mildenhall, it would have been a different prospect. Could have been doing 3 laps around there.
Exactly, yeah. No, fair play to the boy. He was pretty knackered at the end. It's a long way round.
You were hoping for a double-figure lead at least. Obviously, as many as you could get. You had that 12 points, and then it all sort of went wrong. So what's the plan now then?
Let's see how the week goes. I mean, at the end of the night, I was just saying there before the end of the night, a lot of the lads have had a good meeting. Luke's not been out of form, but he's been trying to find form, and he's only dropped a point tonight, so that's a big positive. So he's going. Mason's riding really well. Ace has had a great night as well. He came back from a nasty crash at Mildenhall the other week, so, and before his crash, Kyle was looking good too, so I don't think we've got too much to worry about. We just had a lot of incidents and bad luck, and Greg's not chose tonight, but his bad night has came tonight. It could have been at any point in the season. That's just, as I say, that's just racing. That happens. So I think we'll be okay.
And in the other half of the draw, if you know or not at this point, but Leicester have got through, so they await whoever you face will get through to the final, whether that's yourselves or Mildenhall. And they've been strong all the way through, so they're through to the final in 2 leagues now.
Yeah, not unexpected, I think, for Leicester to make the final. As you say, they've been strong all season. They've got the best top 2 in the league. And
they got another paid maximum tonight, did Dan Thompson. So.
Exactly, and they get good backup from Connor Coles. So with a top 3 like that, they're always going to do well. So we'll see who meets them in the final. But we were at Leicester last week, and we did all right, really. Again, we were in the hunt till maybe 3 or 4 races out, and let it slip a little bit. But that's what we're here for, to learn these things and try not let it happen again.
And overall, the Bullets season as it goes, so it's your assessment, it's been a decent year overall?
Yeah, it's been good. We've been fortunate enough to keep the same 7 guys all season. So there's progression there all the time. We've seen them from the start of the year. We had a good win at Armadale our first night, and we come 2nd or 3rd in the league. We made the playoffs. That was kind of the target to get to anyway. So for all the boys, they've all progressed. And really that's what it's all about, is for them to learn to ride the bikes and enjoy themselves.
And you've had good progression from Berwick over the years. Leon Flint obviously is an example. Carl Bickley still riding with you, and they've all developed quite a lot over the years.
That's what we're looking for, as another rider to come through the Bullets and into the Bandits at the end of the day. But out of these guys, there might be 1 for next year. There might be 2. I don't know, but that there's a master plan in place, and but over this season they've done really well. To make the playoffs with the same 7 guys. We haven't changed or brought anybody in, or brought an ex-Premier League rider in to shore things up and do things like that. It's been the same 7 boys all year, and we're pretty proud of what they've done.
Okay, well, thanks a lot. Well done for tonight anyway. A close run thing, but you kept that unbeaten run at home intact as well.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, well, there you go. That's a great
It was looking close at one point.
It was very close towards the end, but I suppose and then another strange things like that. The Heat 15 got awarded after 2 laps. And Luke had gone through the card up to that point, so a rerun, anything could have happened. For all it was Jason Edwards, but who knows? So see what happens next week, shall we?
Kevin Little, team manager of the Berwick Bullets, and also, I didn't put two and two together, it was the same Kevin Little, but it is the same Kevin Little that was a rider for Bradford in 1992 in the same team as Kelvin Tatum and Gary Havelock and Simon Wigg. What an era that was. And he also rode for Edinburgh as well. So he's now guiding through the next generation of stars in the Berwick Bullets, and what a good team they've got as well. But 3 points, is that going to be enough against Mildenhall at West Row? We'll find out. That's going to be on Sunday. The rest of the fixtures for this week then looking like this. On Wednesday, there's just only big fixtures left really. Wednesday, Championship Knockout Cup. Second leg in the final of that. The Poole Pirates have that 7-point lead, and will that be enough for them, or will the Redcar Bears fight back? Poole versus Redcar. There will be silverware handed out after that one at Poole Stadium on Wednesday night. Thursday, more silverware on the line. All eyes on Oleton Stadium for the second leg of the Premiership Grand Final. A 12-point lead for the BELLE Vue Aces, but they've got to travel to Oleton. Sheffield Tigers versus BELLE Vue Aces. 7:30 the start time. That's live on Eurosport 2 as well if you can't be there in person. And then the next fixture will be on Saturday, and it's up at Armadale, where it is the farewell to Armadale Scottish Open Championship at Edinburgh. 6:30 the start time at Armadale, and what a cracking lineup they've put together for this. A tremendous field led by none other than the current British champion and Grand Prix star Dan Bewley will be contesting that. Other riders involved include Josh Pickering, Justin Sedgman, Chris Harris, Leon Flint, Theo Piper, Lasse Fredriksson, Jacob Hook, Sam Masters, Craig Cook, Richie Worrell, Kai Thompson, Richard Lawson, Aaron Summers, James Sargent, Max Clegg. So that is the lineup for that meeting, and you're certainly going to get your value out of that one, of course. Go down there and check it out and see how that pans out. But of course, if you can't be there in person, Edinburgh will have their own live stream available for that one as well. And then also on Saturday, we've got Leicester Lion Cubs versus the Mildenhall Fen Tigers, and that's the National Development League Knockout Cup final first leg. And then on Sunday, it's the National Development League playoff semi-final second leg, the one we're just talking about. Mildenhall Fen Tigers versus the Berwick Bullets, and that gets underway at West Row at 3 o'clock. Monday, we're back to action in the Premiership, where it's Kings Lynn Stars versus the Sheffield Tigers, the first leg of the Premiership League Cup final. And at Monmore, there's action where it's the Ladbrokes Olympique at Wolverhampton, a 7:30 start time for that, and a unique format, of course, like a handicap format involved in that one as well. So something a bit different there. And then we've got a bit of a break. Of course, we'll be back next Wednesday with the next episode, but looking further ahead, Sheffield Tigers versus Kings Lynn Stars League Cup final second leg at Oleton next Thursday. That's the 20th of October, 7:30. And then a week Friday, it's the Teesside Silver Helmet at Redcar. And, of course, it's the Championship Grand Final. The first leg next Friday, October 21st at Poole versus Leicester. And then the return at the Paul Chapman & Sons Arena, where the Leicester Lions take on the Poole Pirates as they bid goodbye to the championship. And will it be with a league title or not? Find out next week, next Friday and Saturday, 21st and 22nd, when the championship is going to get resolved. And that brings us to a close for this week. Thanks very much for listening. Thanks to everyone who's contributed to the podcast as ever, and not least to Ryan Guest for managing to rustle up Jason Crump for us at short notice. And hope you enjoyed that chat with the former three-time world champion on the show this week. We'll be back next Wednesday with another episode. And wherever you're going, whatever you're doing, whatever you're watching your Speedway, enjoy it. And we'll be back next Wednesday with all the reaction on No Brakes, No Fear.
No Brakes, No Fear. The official British Speedway podcast.
Sports Social Podcast Network.